Hi. So I think one of the things that we could use right now is a little bit of radical optimism. Now, Dua Lipa has an album called Radical Optimism. It is an absolutely fantastic album, and one of the things I really love about it is that it deals with a lot of really tough emotions in a really positive, healthy way, and talks about a lot of it from a place of reflection. It's more about how these experiences shape us and how we grow from them and take pieces of those experiences with us into the futures of our lives, but we can still hold space for the good moments of it, even if not all of it was good. But there are silver linings and there are positive things that you can find in negative experiences too. So today I'm going to play Happy for You from the Radical Optimism album because I love it. It's just a really great song. It was a song that I really needed to hear at the time that it came out. If you ask me, it is the ultimate happy breakup song. Wishing you well. This didn't work out. We're moving on. And I don't think those kind of breakups are talked about as much as the dramatic and intense kind of ones because not everything needs to be a fight all the time. And sometimes it's just a matter of two people just aren't compatible or they're better as friends or whatever the case. But not everything ends badly, and you don't have to harbor feelings of resentment against the other person just because something didn't work out, especially if you're probably just better apart. So, we're going to play the song, and it's only four chords, so it I'm hoping it's going to be pretty easy. I am hoping that I don't cry. I'm going to try this on stereo piano just because of Dua Lipa's type of sound, but I might switch to grand if I find that it works better as I'm going with it. We're just going to give it a go and come along for the ride. The intro that's showing on this doesn't actually sound the same as in the song, so I just need to figure that out. So, like I said, this is a great song for normalizing wishing someone well and reflecting on the time you spent with gratitude. Some things just don't work out, and that's okay. Not everything has to be a competition of who wins the breakup. I saw your picture. You were so happy, I could just tell. She's really pretty, I think she's a model. Baby, together you look hot as hell. A lot of the things that happened to me happened after I decided to take space from relationships and things that just didn't align with who I was anymore. I tried to have those conversations in a healthy way with a lot of those people when I realized they weren't healthy for me. I also didn't realize a lot of those people weren't equipped to properly have those conversations, to really understand what I was saying and how I was saying it. And the really funny thing is, a couple of those same people are key contributors to everything that's happened to me since. One of those relationships I had already been trying to distance myself from for a couple years at that point, slowly. They were known to be pretty vengeful, angry, and manipulative. Anytime anything good ever happened to me or there was something to be excited about, there would be no moments of enjoyment, no chance to celebrate, no milestone. There would always have to be a jab or a negative connotation to it. I just wanted to appreciate the moment. I mean, that's since become more of a common thing for people to want for me, but this was kind of where it all began, from my perspective at least. And when that was one of my closest confidants for a long time, I can understand why people would have the wrong impression of me. And as I healed, and as they didn't, I'm happy for you. I no longer wanted to be associated with that because peace, love, and free will over here, things I wanted to nurture more of and wasn't going to get in that relationship. But that doesn't make it a competition. We just had different paths and had grown apart. Normalize not competing where you don't compare. Everybody's journey is different. Someone else's happiness doesn't have to mean your loss. It means there's a better fit for you elsewhere. That's why I respectfully try to bow out of competitions I don't want to be a part of, and why a large part of my healing has been trying to focus on building authentic connections. Doesn't matter the kind of relationship you have with someone, if you consider it a good one, you should want them to be happy. Be their cheerleader or support, especially if it's someone who spent a large part of their life fighting alone in the dark. I'm sure it seems strange that someone who's never experienced like a real traditional love, it's been the most coveted yet elusive thing in my life. I can also totally acknowledge I was my own roadblock for that for many years. I just wanted a connection so bad, but anytime I got one, I'd be super intense about it or go like full scale panic mode. The potential partners I typically gravitated to didn't have the capacity or intent to love me the way I had hoped they would and would be willing to give them in return. Heavy on the giving husband privileges to the F-boys and wondering why they never bought the cow, you know? But the way I saw it, I was just trying to show them why I was a worthy choice. And for a long time, I wanted to be the best choice and would just continuously try to show that. Go above and beyond for people who didn't care. But the flaw in this thinking took me painfully long to realize and only came through my personal growth. Rather than all the people around me who told me not to waste my time and that these guys just weren't that into me. I never listened, ever convinced I knew how to fix broken men. Now I see the value in looking for one that is at least on the path to healing. Now people can say whatever they want about me, because they will, but the reality of the situation is there are probably 4 that would say I'm the one that got away. Oh, it's okay. I'm excited because it says that I got 99%. It is fairly easy to play. Where I'm getting hung up is on the pre-chorus because it is a couple of the notes in the opposite direction than it is in the rest of the song. But the rest of the song is fairly easy to play, so I'm feeling good about where we're at after the first like full run through. So I'm excited, making progress. This is what practice is for. That's not me being cocky. That's me knowing I was focused on building a solid foundation and they weren't willing to premix the concrete. They know they had a lot of chances that were never taken because they thought I would never get self-worth and leave. To be absolutely fair, those were reasonable assessments at the time. I said in the last episode that my cutoff game has become top tier. I used to beg people to stay in my life because I just craved that connection and wanted what everyone else had. It never got me the results I had hoped for, though. That's where life experience comes in. There was a series of events that let me see my own value, even if the intention of them was to show me that I'm worthless. I'm happy for you. I also spent a lot of time being jealous and feeling like I was in a competition I was never going to win. I'm tall, big, loud, opinionated, big nose, mental health issues, kind of sheltered, only child. I didn't ever feel like I stood a chance against the more petite, demure, traditional kind of thing. I just wanted to be on a field tackling somebody. You are more likely to find me playing a sport of some kind. But I think a lot of that has to do with the confidence I had within myself at the time about all of those things. It's funny how when I look back, because I feel like my relationships with how I feel about a lot of those things are a lot different now too, but that helped me find my self-worth. There are a couple things that happened though that changed my perspective. In 2020, I fell in love accidentally. It wasn't even like real love. It was definitely more of a she's all that situation. But he was someone I had loved as a person for a long time and considered us to be pretty close friends until that point. In a lot of respects, he was the standard I had compared every other man I had invested in to. I never thought I'd be the one who'd get a catch or a chance like that. A girl like me with a guy like him. So when there was an opportunity to experience that for myself, even though it was a terrible idea for the time it was presented, I got swept up in that. The experience changed me though. It had been a long time since I wanted a simple life with a house and a picket fence. I wasn't ready for it though. Not a lot of trained experience. Even if it wasn't up to his standards, I was proud that I tried. I learned a lot, but I also could have learned more if we had more discussions and less passive aggressive comments about the things that were bothering him. But when asked about them, would say nothing's wrong. At least that way I could have put more effort into the things that mattered the most to him. Still something I was learning how to do because I spent so much time alone that most of the considerations I've generally had to make are different. And we were also pretty polar opposite. That's what I loved, but that's what he hated. Because we're that polar opposite. Because we couldn't agree on that or have a healthy enough discussion about it, we couldn't balance it.
Okay, that says 97%, but I know I only missed one singular note on that, so it must be because I was singing.
And some things just don't work out. Some pairs aren't a good match. At the end of the day, with that situation, the only apology I felt I owed was to his ex. Him and I first met around the same time they did, and there were never issues like between us. And I thought that was actually someone that I could have got along with and would have loved to get to know better. We really never got to because his favorite card is playing victim. He could be like two entirely different people, and who he was at any given time was very dependent on where he had been focusing his energy into. Because we had known each other so long, he'd been there through the majority of my exes as well. He knew that my pattern had never been just leaving. I'd usually go back multiple times before I gave something up. I usually would just try to prove my value harder after that. There was no urge to do that though this time. We were better as friends, and I don't have a lot of what I would consider regrets because I try to treat everything as a lesson. But if I did have one to this day, it would be crossing that line of being friends. Even though I don't really know if any of that was real now either. But I mean, silver linings and everything. And I believe that really loving someone means you'd be happy seeing them with someone that isn't you if that meant they could truly be happy. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you necessarily. It just means that a miserable relationship isn't a good one. I had seen him age into a darker place than he once was, and then even seemingly more so with me. I thought he deserved better than what I could offer him at the time. Ha! When he started seeing someone else, I cried for a couple days, and then I got this weird sense of calm. I started taking the work I was doing on myself a lot more seriously. There's a song called She Ain't Me by, I think it's Sophia Scott, that put it into perspective a bit. A literal pivot in one play. It really helped a lot. At first, I was all hung up on the ways I didn't compare to her, but on my best days laughing with him, he'd always tell me never to change. No two relationships are the same. They were a better suited pair for what he wanted. I still appreciated him as a person, but he wasn't suited for what I wanted. I also didn't believe he was willing to take accountability for his role and how things played out between us, and by doing no work on himself, would likely run into all of the same problems, especially without other people telling him his behavior was shitty. I was confident that by taking the time out to reflect and heal, even if it got off to a less than desirable start, that when I found someone more suited to me, I would navigate my future role better and be more prepared when it came toward me. I don't chase, I attract. Heck of a magnet at that. I just wanted to know the right one when I found him. So he absolutely didn't expect me to not come crawling or to never look back. I had never done it for lesser connections. This time I was more.
Okay, that one also says 99%, and I actually believe that. And where I'm still struggling is still in the pre-course. So we're just going to run it back and we're going to keep trying it.
I've legitimately come to believe that you have to truly love yourself before you have the capacity to be serious about really loving someone else. I just wanted to try it and see how it went. Verdict's still out. But I can look back and be grateful at the time that we shared and like what I took out of it.
And I didn't even want to cry, but what is this feeling? To ask myself why.
I came out of it with more of an appreciation for aliens and Morgan Wallen, but I did find it a little disconcerting that every time I had a dream that we'd fight, it was like we fought in real life. It happened multiple times. It was really weird.
You got everything you deserve. I'm happy for you.
When I was in a worse mental state and always feeling alone, I used to feel jealous about seeing people in love, even becoming skeptical it was even real.
Looking back now, I hope you see it. Even the hard parts were all for the best. I see where you're at now. You picked up the pieces and then you gave them to somebody else. Couldn't believe it. Had to ask myself why.
Then I asked myself, for what? What does someone else being happy take away from me? Just because it wasn't my love story. Love is not a competition. Rejection is redirection. And everyone does everything in their own way. Some of the harder hearts can be more challenging to navigate or break through to, but these should all be stories between two people. A covenant, if you will. So I've learned to be happy for others because my story was always meant to be different. I've said it before, it's love that transmutes hate. So the more that we spread love, the better the world that we can create, in my opinion. So, when Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged, I was actually really happy for them. You can tell they have fun, and I love how they look at each other. And like, she's been out there saying she's got the love story that she writes about. Is there any better feeling than that? Now, I will say I had a harder time when Theo Von professed interest in Sydney Sweeney, but I personally don't think that they're a vibrational match. But they would look great together, and it'd be interesting to see how it turned out if they tried it. I did think it was super weird that there was controversy around both of them, though, at the time, one of which was over something that seemed almost intentionally inflammatory and to make the other look worse. You never know when reality is different than what you thought you knew. At the end of the day, the choice should be left up to us so that we can decide who it is that we want to create the next happiest life with. Or at very least, stop trying to jam the signal. Make it work any harder. It'd be like a shock induction to teleportation. See, I don't know why everybody can't just go be happy for each other.
I'm happy for you. Hope you're happy too.
Okay, pretty happy with how that turned out. It's a lot of fun to play, especially when you get into a cadence with it. I find it's easy to hit like the post of the note with the words in the verse. However, it's a little more challenging with the ad libs within the verse. So, for example, on a line, it would be 4 notes, but 2 of those notes would be actual sung words, and then 2 of them would be ad libs. So I find the 2 that are ad libs are harder to measure on beat than the 2 that are actually in the verse. But other than that, very easy, very fun. Again, a great song to reflect after things just don't work out the way that you expect them to. So it doesn't always have to be a negative thing. Sometimes rejection is redirection. So thank you for joining me. Until next time, keep the peace and keep rocking on.